All right, good morning. Sorry I couldn't be here today. We're going to go ahead and cover section 1.7. Your 1.6 homework that was due today, I will collect on Friday along with your 1.7 homework. Don't forget that Friday we'll go over 1.8. No school Monday. Tuesday is going to be review. And then Wednesday will be your quiz over 1.6 to 1.8. Okay, I'm just going to work through all the problems, so the video might go kind of fast. So make sure that you pause it so you can get down all the information. And then we'll clear up anything that you have questions over tomorrow. Okay, so what we're doing with this is we're solving inequalities and then we're sketching our answers on a number line. So there's two things that you need to know. Okay, the first thing, if you have a greater than or equal to or a less than or equal to. The equal sign indicates that it's either going to be a closed circle on your number line or a bracket. So there's a couple ways to do it. We can do a closed circle and then shade to the right or left depending if it's greater than or less than. So I'm just going to shade to the right for this one. Or the second way you can do it, it means the exact same thing. You can do a bracket over the number and then shade whichever direction you need to. So bracket and closed circle both go with greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. Okay, so the second thing, if there is no equal sign, then it's either going to be an open circle or a parenthesis. Okay, so same thing. So I can do an open circle, so that means it does not equal that number. Or I can just do a parenthesis instead of a bracket. So parenthesis and then shade the correct to the correct area. Okay, so make sure if it's in equals in there, closed circle, and a bracket. All right, first example, we're going to solve 3x plus 1 is greater than or equal to 2 plus x. We're going to treat the greater than or equal symbol as a equal sign. So we're just going to solve for x. Okay, so let's get our x's together and everything else on the other side. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides. So now I have 2x plus 1 greater than or equal to 2. Take my 1 to the other side. So 2x greater than or equal to 1. Divide both sides by 2. So I get x is greater than or equal to 1/2. Okay, so this is my solution, and then when I do this on a number line, does not have to be big, but make sure you include a couple numbers. So I'm going to include -1, 0, and +1. Okay, I use the circles, so since x is greater than or equal to, we're going to have a closed circle. So where x is 1/2, closed circle. If x is anything greater than that, we're going to shade to the right, because x is any number bigger than 1/2. Okay, so the solution, x is greater than or equal to 1/2, and then we shade to the right of 1/2 on the number line. Okay, second example, it's going to have a double inequality. So 0 is less than or equal to x plus 1, or x plus 3 divided by 2 is less than 5. Okay, so same thing. We're going to treat these less than signs like they are equal signs and just solve for x. But since it's a double inequality, whatever I do to one side, I have to make sure I do to the other two sides. So first thing I'm going to do is get x by itself. So if I'm dividing by 2, I'm going to multiply all three sides by 2. So on the left-hand side, I have 0 is less than or equal to. The 2's cancel in the middle term. X plus 3 is less than 10. Okay, now I need x by itself. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, or all three sides. So now I have negative 3 is less than or equal to x is less than 7. Now that I have x in the middle by itself, I'm done with the inequality part. Now I need to sketch it. Okay, so I'm just going to pick a couple numbers. Okay, so if we only look at the left-hand side, negative 3 is less than or equal to x. Since it's a less than or equal to sign, we're going to have a closed circle on negative 3. Then if we look at the right-hand side, x is less than 7. There's no less than or equal to, so we're going to have an open circle on 7. And x is any number in between negative 3 and 7, so I'm going to shade in between the two. Okay, so this would be my final answer. Okay, one more double inequality. So negative 1 is less than 2 minus x over 3 is less than 1. So starting the same way, I want x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 2 from all three terms. So negative 1 minus 2, so negative 3. The 2's cancel here. Negative x over 3 is less than negative 1. So I want negative x by itself, so I'm going to multiply everything by 3. So negative 9 is less than negative x is less than negative 1. And divide everything by negative 1 to make this a positive x. Okay, so here's the trick. When you're doing inequalities, if you divide by a negative, then you have to switch the signs. So negative 9 divided by negative 1 is positive 9. Instead of a less than, I switch it to a greater than since I divided by a negative. Negative x divided by negative 1 is positive x. Instead of this less than, I switch it to the greater than, and then a 1. Okay, so remember, anytime you divide by a negative, you just reverse the signs. Okay, so now if I'm going to sketch it, for the 9, it's not equal, so we're going to have an open circle. Same thing with the 1. And x is in between the two numbers, so I'm going to shade in between 1 and 9. So this would be my final answer. Okay, so now we're going to do inequality or absolute value inequalities. So there's two different cases. So if we look at case 1, if the absolute value is less than a number, we're going to write it as a double inequality. So negative a is less than x is less than a. So if the if the absolute value is less than a number, when we do the number line, we're going to be shading in between negative A and positive A. If we look at the second case, if the absolute value is greater than a number, then it's going to be a compound inequality. So we're going to have two separate equations or two separate inequalities. So the part in the absolute value is less than the negative A, or it's greater than positive A. So if it's a compound, the number line, the line that you shade is never going to meet. So it's going to shade to the left and also to the right. Okay, first example, absolute value of x minus 2 is less than or equal to 5. Okay, since this is the absolute value is less than a number, this is going to be a double inequality. So since it's less than or equal to 5, we're going to take negative 5 is less than or equal to the part in the absolute value is less than or equal to positive 5. So all I'm doing is I'm taking the number on the right hand side, putting the negative on the left, the positive on the right, and in the middle I'm putting the part that was in the absolute value. Okay, now we're back to the original where we're just solving for x. So I'm going to add 2 to everything. So I get negative 3 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 7. Okay, so now I have to graph. The part with the negative 3, since it's less than or equal to, I'm going to have a closed circle. Same thing with the 7. It's going to be a closed circle. And x is in between the two numbers, so I'm going to shade in the middle. Okay, so next example, the absolute value of 1 minus 2x over 3 is less than 1. Okay, again, the absolute value is less than a number, so we're going to have the double inequality. So I'm going to take the negative of the number is less than the part that's in the absolute value is less than the positive of the number. Okay, back to what we were doing. I'm solving for x in the middle. So I'm going to subtract 1 from everything. Okay, multiply everything by 3. So now I have negative 6 is less than negative 2x is less than 0. Divide everything by a negative 2. Now I have positive 3. Remember, anytime you divide by a negative, you switch the sign. So greater than x, greater than 0. So since I divided everything by a negative, I flipped the signs. So now my inequality is simplified and I can graph. Okay, they're not less or greater than or equal to sign, so it's going to be an open circle on 0 and on 3, and x is in between the two. All right, 2 more examples. So 3 times the absolute value of 4 minus 5x is greater than or equal to 9. Okay, I want the absolute value by itself. So I'm going to divide everything by 3. So now I have the absolute value of 4 minus 5x is greater than or equal to 3. Okay, since the absolute value is greater than a number, now I'm going to have a compound inequality. So I'm going to take what's in the absolute value, keep the same sign, so greater than or equal to the positive, so it's greater than or equal to positive 3, and take the absolute value, and now it's going to be less than or equal to the negative, so negative 3. So now I'm just going to solve two different inequalities. So on the left-hand one, I'm going to subtract 4. So I have negative 5x greater than or equal to negative 1. I want x by itself, so divide by negative 5. Remember, when I divide by a negative, I switch the sign. So x is less than or equal to 1/5. On the one on the right, start the same way, subtract 4. Divide by a negative 5. Okay, so my compound inequality, x is less than or equal to 1/5, and x is greater than or equal to 7/5. Okay, so I still have to graph this. Okay, so if we start with x is less than or equal to 1/5, it's less than or equal to, so I'm going to have a closed circle where 1/5 would be. And since x is less than this number, I'm going to shade to the left. And the next one, x is greater than or equal to 7/5, so I'm going to have a closed circle at 7/5. X is bigger than this number, so now I'm going to shade to the right. Okay, all right, last example. We have the absolute value of x plus 3 is less than negative 5. Okay, this is kind of a trick question because absolute value, remember anything in the absolute value, if we take the absolute value, it's going to be positive. Okay, so if we compare it to the right-hand side and it's a negative 5, that means this problem is going to have no solution. Okay, and it's because the left-hand side, the absolute value, means that it's going to be positive. So a positive number cannot be less than negative 5. Okay, so here's your assignment that will be due on Friday. I will go over 1-6 day 2 and this assignment, so if you have questions, the substitute also has my worked out version of this 1.7 assignment. So if you need help, you can go up and check your answers. Make sure you come with questions on Friday, and remember we will have a quiz on Wednesday. I will see you on Friday.